You can learn a thing or two from the Kwame Brown story. Most people can learn and take from the Kwame Brown story, particularly the recent events, as far as being inspired by Kwame Brown story, feeling some inspiration from the Kwame Brown story. Kwame Brown gave a voice to the voiceless. Kwame Brown stood up against the machine. He stood up against the bully. If you have to give anybody any kudos or some props or standing applause, please make sure that you follow Steven Jackson and Matt Barnes and let them know that they created this monster. They created this machine, and now they can't stop it from growing, stop it from having a larger voice than Steven Jackson and Matt Barnes. If they would have just let the giant sleep and enjoy his life, enjoy his best life, they wouldn't have these problems that they have hovering over them today. So Kwame Brown has been on a campaign, on a feud against a lot of personalities in social media. Stephen A. Smith, Steven Jackson, Matt Barnes, Jemele Hill, Chris Broussard, Rob Parker, Skip Bayless, Shannon Sharp. He has been going ham and going at a lot of individuals. Charlemagne the God, DJ Envy. Let's talk about Charlemagne the God a little bit. Charlemagne the God talked about Kwame Brown on the Breakfast Club earlier this week. And Kwame Brown responded to Charlemagne the God. Charlemagne the God did the classic mistake like Matt Barnes and Steven Jackson. He just continued to instigate it. If he would have just said his piece, let Kwame Brown say his piece, yes, people would still be trolling him, but the story would have died. It would have died in a couple of days. But no. Charlemagne the God had to go right back on radio, and instead of addressing the topics that Kwame Brown talked about on his previous live stream, he went totally left field and started talking about Kwame Brown's family members. And this is a classic example of a smear campaign. This is a classic example of railroading someone, blackballing someone. Instead of addressing the topics that Kwame Brown demonstrated on his live stream, Charlemagne the God proceeded in talking about leave Kwame Brown alone. He's not in the right frame of mind. He's violent. He has to be violent because his brother was violent. His father was violent. His mother had multiple kids. This guy is a problem. He's violent. Stay away from him. When that got back to Kwame Brown got on live stream and basically said, okay, tit-for-tat. If you want to talk about everything else instead of the elephant in the room, which is what I talked about on my live stream, and if you want to go there and want to talk about my family members, some of them I don't even have relationships with, like his father. He doesn't know anything about his biological father. All right. Charlemagne the God talking about his brother's in prison. His brother's not even in prison. So Charlemagne the God has already contradicted himself and assassinating and deframing someone's character. That someone being Kwame Brown. So Kwame Brown said, okay, tick for tack. If we're going to play in the mud, let's play in the mud. And he begins an onslaught about Charlemagne the God and his past, particularly his past in Charlotte. Charlemagne the God did not like that. He didn't like that so much that he got the lawyers involved. And now the lawyers are doing a cease and desist with Kwame Brown. Laughable. If Charlemagne the God would have just, let Kwame Brown, get off and let Kwame Brown say his piece and just moved on like Stephen A. Smith, Kwame Brown would not have any more legs. He wouldn't have much of a bigger voice. He did the classic bait and switch, the same thing that Matt Barnes and Steven Jackson, they kept going back and forth. All they're doing is making Kwame Brown more popular, and now more people want to check him out by subscribing him and watching his live streams and listening to him. You're giving Kwame Brown free publicity, free promo. And the simplest thing for you to do is like what everyone else has done when they've been in the radar of Kwame Brown. They just move on. They don't talk about it. But Steven Jackson, Matt Barnes, and Charlemagne the God seems to get in their own ways. And let's just throw in a Jemele Hill, which Jemele Hill issued a statement talking about the only thing she talked about concerning Kwame Brown is his play on the court, which is funny. The funny thing about Twitter is you can find tweets. You can find tweets that you done said 3, 4, 5, 6 years ago, 10 years ago. Those tweets do not get scrubbed. And there's a bunch of tweets out there on social media. Jemele Hill, if Jemele Hill not only talked about Kwame Brown on the court, his play on the court, but she was on that classic train of let's troll Kwame Brown. Let me get my career started and going. Let me get my brand and my name on and popping. What? Deframing and trolling a high school player that just came into the league that's trying to figure things out. The man lasted 12 years, but they still call him a bust. You know why people call him a bust? They call him a bust because that's what all their favorite sports personalities say. Kwame Brown's a bust. Kwame Brown's a bust. The stats don't lie. If Kwame Brown's a bust, then everybody should be a bust. Kwame Brown has been in the playoffs. He hasn't won a championship. So the fact of the matter that people are still calling this man a bust, and they don't even know what a bust is laughable. And there have been people that teams have drafted that didn't even last 3 years in the NBA. Kwame Brown lasted 12, a decade. But Charlemagne the God and Steven Jackson and Matt Barnes, they love to dish it, but they can't take it. So that's all I got on Kwame Brown. Hopefully. Oh, and Jemele Hill talk about she didn't say anything. They dug up the tweets. And she even tweeted that Kwame Brown is violent. Stay away from him because he's violent. That's pretty much what she was saying in between the tweets. She's saying that no, she just got that from a reference from Game of Thrones. Jemele Hill, nobody watches Game of Thrones other than you and your nerdy friends. And that just tells me that you don't want to co-sign to what you're saying. You got a classic built-in excuse. Anyway, I'm up out of here. I'll talk to you guys later. Deuces.